Hello YouTube. Today I'm gonna tell you about an update of the Dyatlov Pass tragedy case. This is just latest from Russia in July of 2020. I want you to listen to it because for some reason, of course, the case is still live, I should say. And there are people in Russia who are interested to promote what you can call fake news. Listen to this. In February of last year, 60 years after the incident, the Prosecutor General's office announced they'll conduct verification of the investigation of the Dyatlov group case. At the press conference on Saturday, July 11, 2020, a representative of the Prosecutor General's office in the Ural Federal District, Andrey Kuryakov, said that Dyatlov's group was killed by an avalanche. According to him, due to poor visibility, people could not find the tent after they left it. He also clarified that the cause of death was also the fact that tourists went 50 meters from their location, but visibility in those weather conditions was only 16 meters. Now, the pass is named in memory of the tourist group, and I already explained to you that what is meant by tourist in the Russian language. Anyway, the group was led by Igor Dyatlov, who died in the winter of 1959 in the northern Ural Mountains. At that time, under unclear circumstances, 9 skiers of the tourist club of the Ural Polytechnic Institute were killed. According to the official data of the medical examiner's office, most of the tourists froze to death, but some of them were found to have serious injuries that caused death. During the investigation, various versions of the incident were worked out. Snow falling on a tent, an attack by escaped prisoners, death at the hands of the indigenous people, as well as a quarrel between the tourists. The Prosecutor General's office of Russia reported that they had analyzed the characteristic of each injury of the group who died on the Dyatlov Pass in the northern Urals in 1959. And details of their injuries were disclosed to journalists. According to Andrey Kuryakov, representative of the Prosecutor General's office in the Ural Federal District, again, people died under the avalanche as evidenced by their injuries. All the tourists except Zolotaryov, Dubinina, and Tibor Brynyo died of hypothermia. However, the injuries to these members of the group raised questions. So Zolotaryov had broken ribs, and the experts explained this using the example of a tennis ball. When injuries are determined, the general rule is as follows. At the place where the force is applied, the bones and tissues are deformed. Where we push, there is deformation, Kuryakov said, adding that it was unclear how the ribs were damaged. He said that after asking this question, the expert realized that there was, it's a hard translation from Russian, but it is an encircling load. 3 to 4 meters of snow were pressed from all sides. So this is about half a ton. Then the injuries of the tourists should be on the backside, as it turned out it was, he said. When the experts, based on this sign, looked at the injuries, everything fell into place. They concluded that the injuries were caused by the pressure of the flowing force. This is what the representative of the Prosecutor General's office concluded. At the press conference with journalists, Kuryakov also said that due to the avalanche, due to poor visibility, people could not find their tent after leaving it. In addition, the cause of death was the fact that a group of tourists went 50 meters from their location. But again, the visibility in those weather conditions did not exceed 16 meters. We're speaking about 1959, and this is 2020. However, the distinguished Russian rescuer who had participated in numerous rescue operations in his homeland, Alexander Hofstein, To him, this version of the Prosecutor General's office did not seem completely reliable. He explained that 60 years ago, there were no reliable statistics on air temperature, wind speed, and visibility. In addition, all the witnesses to the incident were killed. According to Hofstein, the Prosecutor General's office data can only be considered as one of the reasons for the group's death. Earlier, the Prosecutor General's office reported that the tourists were killed due to an avalanche. Again, the department said that the group could not find the abandoned tent due to poor visibility. Trying to return to the camp, the tourists froze to death because the temperature on the pass was 40 to 45 degrees below zero. I kind of keep repeating it so you understand why the modern Russian government is using this conclusion. Well, I don't know why, but at least you know how. Yevgeny Chernousov, the lawyer for the public fund for the memory of the Dyatlov group, disagreed with the official version of the death of the tourist on the pass in 1959. We do not agree. We will analyze everything that was said here. In fact, this test did not give anything. Nothing came to us, he said. In the opinion of Chernousov, the only possible version is man-made or of technological origin. I told you the versions. Of course, nobody talked about the fact that it could have been a counterintelligence operation. They could have wandered on a test. I'm not speaking anything about like snow, the abominable snowman, or UFOs, or anything like that. I'm just getting to the versions that should have been considered. Really, I'm not casting anything aside, but I know the Northern Urals. I've studied this situation there for many years, legends and so forth. Anyway, I want to read to you, my audience, statements of ordinary Russians, a reaction to this, what I believe to be bogus new investigation. And this is what they said after they heard the statement of the Prosecutor General's office. And I went through the internet, to various sites, and here's what I picked out, and I want you to listen to it. And I'm proud of how they state their opinions. Here's one of them. There seemed to be a strong chemical smell coming from the bodies. There, the trajectory of a ballistic missiles, it passed over that area. Hence, the talk of fireballs was in the area too. Accident took place when they were testing a rocket. It was heptile that got onto them. It's a guess that he mentions. That's why they ran out of the tent. And then everything was hushed up. Soviet missiles don't fall, as the saying was going. Was at the time. So that's the case, he says. Somebody else says, how did Zolotaryov go? How did he get such injuries? How could he walk? Yes, and then the flooring of the branches, and the tip of Brynyo had a skull injury. Somebody had to make that flooring, okay? All the injured then had to stay in the tent under the avalanche. In the photo, the tent is not completely buried. Then why cut and go through the exit, and there was a horizontal cut? Was it worth the time spent on this new investigation to confirm the avalanche theory? Some kind of a disappointment indeed. The other one said, this is the age of lies and the time of liars. Why then was the case secret at the federal level, Russian federal level? Russell, one of the people involved in the investigation back in 1950s, at that time asked Yeltsin to publish a close part of the materials on this case. He was refused. Apparently, after the new restart period in Russia, we, and deservedly so, by the way, he says, are kept and taken for degenerates. The avalanche could have been perfectly identified 60 years ago as the cause of the incident. Somebody else says, I wonder if radiation and torn out tongues are also caused by avalanches. Another one says, Who and what can they investigate? Except for beating out confessions, they're absolutely capable of nothing. Well, still they can make witnesses out of freelance addicts for a dose of drugs to make, specify, or point out a person. And here we're talking about the events of a half a century ago. I believe that he says that the Soviet forensic experts could not solve such a difficult task. Okay? So this is what I have to believe. But the Russian, half-educated half-wits, put everything on the shelves. They solved everything. He's being very sarcastic, this gentleman. Vivat to the giants of the Russian investigative thought. Let's get up and applaud loudly. Another one says, 50 plus years under the top secret label, and then all they do is declare that these people, the group, the Dyatlov group, was covered by an avalanche. What babblers. Another one says, in that place a rocket fell, a combination of circumstances and accidents. The boys were in the wrong place at the wrong time. And the other one says, the Dyatlov group, they were killed and the bodies were so disfigured, as well as other damage to their property, that no avalanche will do so. So this government is lying. And another one says, yeah, that's right. How did I not realize that an avalanche could cause you to lose your tongue? Well done. By careful investigation, and after half a century, they come to this conclusion. Someone else added, there are no avalanches in those places, and never have been. The slope where the tent was 5-degree inclination. Prosecutor's office, they're idiots. And then the other one says, the KGB officers, they killed them because they, the Dyatlov people, went to the area of the secret research. And then they faked an accident, the government, Soviet government at the time. Again, somebody else mentioned, there was no avalanche there at that time. There is evidence from the old-timers. Let the Prosecutor General's office learn how to collect puzzles. And then they can tell us fake news. Another Russian person added, the Prosecutor General's office is better to be silent than to issue such explanations. The version with an avalanche was one of the first expressed back in 1959, immediately after the death of the Dyatlov group, and was immediately rejected because it did not explain most of the mysteries that occurred with the Dyatlov past tragedy. It seems that the current Prosecutor General's office has decided to follow the path of least resistance, bringing to light a moth-eaten and long-forgotten version. Another person added, what an interesting avalanche. Left everything around untouched, but crushed every skier personally. Then another statement. In February, the Prosecutor General's office confirmed in the case file that there was evidence of beta radiation contamination on the clothing of the victims, 2 people. Another Russian stated, don't be stupid, only those who were found in the 3 months in the spring had no eyes and no tongue, and the animals ate them up. But the fact that the guys were killed in this incident, there is no doubt. There was another statement which mentioned, no one tortured them, just mistook for intelligence agents, because the guys embarked to see what fell down at that time. And what fell down was the secret part of the rocket. The rocket itself should have gone much further into the mountains, but apparently it did not. That's what he means. Then another statement, the Dyatlov team were killed and the bodies were maimed. It's not just about the damage, but also about the circumstances under which these injuries were caused, that it was easy to evaluate other characteristics, for example, location of the bodies, related objects, and other features, and as was about their bodies, and was also other damage to their property that no avalanche will ever do. So the government is lying. Cover up of a possible ritual murder, or murder because of the penetration of the Dyatlov team into some closed territories. For example, when the rocket fell, the group decided to look for it and change the itinerary in the direction of the fall. So they were mistaken for another group. They should have run the other way. And other people say that, well, let's just bygones be bygones. Let's just let them rest in peace. But you see, something is stirring. Yes, the relatives wanted also to know what had happened and the new investigation, but the Russian government, their prosecutor's office, came up with the least resistance, as was said before. We still don't know what happened at the Dyatlov Pass, and people will continue research. And I'm speaking about the Russians. There are some in the West, but I'm talking about real research conducted by the people on the side, the Russians. And you should look at my previous videos. It's in the playlist about the Dyatlov group. I try to bring all the information to you of what's happening in Russia. I don't want to put my conclusions as to what I think has happened. I do my own research, but I try to bring information to you so you do your own conclusions. But I tell you that I do consider this latest development to be, let's just say, very inconclusive as to the death of the young people of the Dyatlov team in 1959. Thank you for your support. I will bring you other videos, other subjects pertaining to the Russian paranormal phenomena, and Eurasian and Chinese and so forth, and of course Ukraine, where I'm from, and other such stories, mostly about UFOs and USOs. And if you can support my research, you can see how in the description to this video. And stay tuned, more is coming. Thank you.